Good afternoon to everyone. We will start the afternoon session. The session will start by Rinpoche speaking on traditional and modern student. In this session, we will be discussing about the distinction between traditional and modern student. In the morning session, I will also continue what we left this morning about the traditional and modern teacher. The qualities of teacher are also explained in detail from the Prajnaparamita Sutra. There are 10 qualities which is popular in the text with respect to the qualification of a spiritual master. And these qualifications, when counted in the sutra, are actually should be applied to a master, which is a spiritual master, which impart teachings based on Buddhist philosophical studies. But we can also compare and take these qualifications for the modern subject teachers. The teachers who teach modern subjects such as literature and so on should also possess qualification similar to the ones that are being explained in the sutra, even though those qualifications may not be exactly same uh, as being explained in the sutra. But when it comes to the masters, the spiritual masters, three qualifications that is being discussed in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, I feel that that kind of qualities, three qualities, should be present both in the civil or the modern subject and for the spiritual. And in the Prajnaparamita text, there are phrases and verses which explains about the different qualities of a master. Even though the three are the direct or the important qualities, but there are also many soft qualities. When we speak about one of the qualities as being uh, having a satisfied mind, when we speak here about a contented or a satisfied mind, we refer to a certain topic that I may not be able to study this subject, or even if I study this subject, particular subject, it may not be very benefit to me in acquiring or fulfilling my temporary or the ultimate wishes. In today's school, one of the main reasons why the education is not very profound, I feel that there are many reasons. One reason may be from uh, the teacher may complain that the mistake is coming from the student or the administration or the parents, and the student or the parents will complain it is due to the full fault of the teachers and their mistaken ways of imparting teaching, which led to the decline in the quality of studies. Then also the complaint suggests the environment or the society and all these things adds start blaming each other for the declining of the quality of the education. And all this administration, the parent and the teachers commonly agree to the point that the students lack interest in this studies. They are not putting effort. This is a common explanation found in the teacher and parents. I feel that this is true in most cases. In 21st century, we are in a very vibrating society, and in such a modern society, it is very difficult to get interest in education. Children at the age of 5 or 4 have their own object of interest, or where they spend time playing with the mobile phones, computers, and so on, uh, spending their time or the modern gadgets. So therefore, it is very true that the students themselves do not have interest and are not making enough effort. But what is the fault? Again, what is the reason behind having lack of interest, and how can we make them more interest to the studies? Then, of course, the administration, the parent, the teacher, among these three, the one person that who can make the students more interested in the studies is the teacher. The teacher alone has the potential and the responsibility to do that. Even though there will be a lot of distractions from the environment and the society, while the teacher impart the class or while the teacher teaches in the class, the teacher should teach in such a way that the students will feel the reason to study, the purpose of the study, so that they can concentrate more on the studies. The teacher should also understand the causes behind why the students are not paying enough interest to the study, so that the teacher can work out how to reduce or eliminate those distractions. So therefore, the first job or responsibility for the teacher is not to feel discouraged and to put more effort to what is being taught. So similar, if you have interest in a certain subject or any kind of education subject, then you won't face difficulties or tired. If the students were taught or if the students were asked to uh, play what they're interested, or if it is play on the playground, they will feel tired even though mentally they are not tired. But if they were asked to do some indoor games, even though if they are physical not tired, then they will play whole night without even sleeping. The reason behind this case is that they are interested in such games. So therefore, we should be also able to make sure that the students also uh, get such interest in their studies. The person who make the modern electronic gadgets have uh, put a lot of effort in how to make the children's distracted and pay attention to these modern gadgets. So therefore, these modern electronic gadgets are very tempting, and it attracted us and our children towards them. Generally speaking, any kind of subject, we have the full presentation of the purpose and so on. So if the purpose behind studying that subject is being seen by each and every student, then automatically the student will engage in studying these subjects. Of course, it is very difficult to find a common solution to all the students, even though it may not be possible. It may be possible, but it is very difficult to find a common approach to all the students. So, therefore, depending upon the individual students' mental dispositions and their needs, therefore, we have to find different approaches and different solutions to impart teaching. So, therefore, if the teacher is able to find these distinguish different mental dispositions and the needs of the students, then the teacher becomes a complete and a profound teacher. When Buddha teach, we always say that whatever the Buddha teach will never go in vain, and the Bodhisattvas, most of the teachings will never go in vain. And ordinary persons, when they give teachings, most of the teachings go in vain. So therefore, even though the teaching or the subject is same, due to the person who give the teaching, it makes a difference. How to attract the students to that subject or that particular teaching, it makes a lot of difference in how to benefit, the way it benefit the student. Of course, it is not an easy task. It is a very difficult one. But due to there are many means to achieve that due to the inferential approach or assumptions and so on. Therefore, in the modern studies, it is very important that the teacher have some understanding about the psychological pattern of students. So if the teacher can understand the psychological pattern differences of students, then they will be more effective in imparting their teaching. But when we speak about the psychological understanding of the students, it differs a lot with the tradition and the modern way of understanding it. Of course, we can utilize the both measures and the means from the tradition and modern means to impart the teaching. So therefore, there are many ways how to make the student pay attention to it. And if we are able to generate such an interest in the student that the student themselves feel I have to do it at now or at once, then if we are reach that spot, then we do not have to even encourage them as they will automatically flock to those subjects to study. Because once the joyous effort arrives in the students, then it's once the joyous effort arrives, it's very easy to accomplish anything. Apart from a joyous effort, if you make them pay more attention by using force, then of course it will go in the other side. Therefore, normally when we refer to an effort, we always add the adjective joyous effort, which means the effort is normally to the virtuous actions. So therefore, making student do with force and generating automatic effort in the student is a big different. The subject may different. For example, in Buddhist philosophical studies, it may be different subjects such as emptiness and so on. So whatever the topic or the subject may be, the teacher should be able to impart the teaching in a very convenient and a very poetic way so that the students feel that it is very similar or same fitting to their mental dispositions. If the teacher teach everything that he knows or he or she knows, then the student may not be able to take hold of it. The students have different mental dispositions and intelligence. The best students are those who are more intelligent, maybe understand more. So for those students who are the very intelligent, we have to teach them with a concise manner. Even for example, when the Buddha taught about the vast uh, realizations and the emptiness. So Buddha always teach depending upon the disciples to the not so intelligent disciples. Uh, some in some places Buddha emphasize on the words and the phrases using more metaphor and large number of a collection of words in order to explain simple uh, emptiness or something. So therefore, it is very important to teach everything, taking into account the mental capacity of the students. So this is one way of teaching. So once you teach a particular subject, once it is being taught, you should not feel satisfied or contented by your actions until the students themselves understood everything. That you should further engage in checking whether is there any left or not. Students also, while studying, while listening to the teacher, then contemplation, and also later thinking about it. Even uh, there are, even in our general usage, there are many things which we are different from what we study and what we put into practice. So there is a huge gap between uh, what we study and the implement what we implement it. So therefore, the students, once they study a particular subject, and until they are fluent both in understanding and putting it into practice, the teacher should not lose their encouragement and continue to guide the student. Then when we speak about the master, there is two, the one external and the inner master. So the external is normally the teacher or the person who guides you with the explanations. And it should be someone who is able to tell the student, introduce the subject, and in at the beginning, then in the middle, make the student understood it, and at the end, make the student implement it in one's he or she's life. And of course, as it is stated in the sutra, that there are many obstacles which make uh, the students not able to put into practice what he has understood. So in sutra, they speak about four obscuration with respect to one's nature, and the first is the afflictions. So every individual, by nature, they have a different mental dispositions. Therefore, if they haven't eliminate the afflicted emotions, so these afflicted emotions play a part. And since we all have the afflicted emotions in dormant way, so one of the causes or the conditions is counted as being near to the desired objects. In today's world, wherever you go to a big city or anywhere, there are lots of objects which will make you get desire or attracted to those objects. If you look at the big buildings in cities, you will see very beautiful, different illuminated lights and different informations, uh, board and so on in the big cities, which are all source of your afflicted emotions to increase. Even in case of a normal news, a magazine, it is considered today that a news or a magazine which will be able to increase the afflicted or the desire in someone is considered more efficient or more popular. In today's journalist study, in the journalism study, it is taken the example that if a dog bite a man, it is something possibility, so it's not a news. But if a man bite a dog, it will become a news. So the reporters will pay attention to that because it is something different and extraordinary. Similarly, if it is something positive, we normally have a saying, "Good news is no news." These are the basic foundation of the journalist studies. They should be able to ignite even a small issue. They should be able to make a big issue out of a small matter. So these are all the sources and ignition to ignite the afflicted emotion that is present within us. And today we are in a world of consumerism and globalizations. So in this period, every technology or every people or the communications, they're trying to use or ignite the desire or the affliction within us to its maximum level. If the desire is not increased, is not if the companies that promote those gadgets, if they are not able to increase the desire in every individual, then they won't be able to sell their products. There is never an attachment or a desire which is not depending upon an anger or attachment. So the desire always come from another afflicted emotion, which is anger or attachment. And the second obscuration is bad company. Today, wherever we go, we find a lot of company who call themselves as friends. They always teach us and guide us about how to have a desire about these things. And there is no one who guide or teach us to be contented with what we have. As Gondar Rinpoche has said that a bad company do not need to have a horn on their head. They will deceive you with by very playful words. So they will act very friendly and they will drive you towards the actions of afflicted emotions. So all of these persons can be counted as your bad company. A positive friend is very rare in this society. So how should we be separated or part away from the bad company? So this is another issue, an important matter here. So this is also a responsibility of a teacher how to teach the students to part away from their bad company. And the third obscuration is lacking. So when we refer here as lacking, some students may lack the facilities to study a proper subject. For example, there may be lack of teacher or there may be lack or insufficiency literature books or reference. If it is something to be experimented, then the instruments are not available or due to time constraints they will be not able to pay much attention, so on. So these are the counted as what we call lacking in terms of the facilities of studies. And the fourth one is the most dangerous and also very important and the most difficult to eliminate. That is being under the control of someone else. In today's world, all people, especially the younger generation, they are. It is very difficult to find themselves having their independent way of thinking. Much of their thinking is being derived under the influence of external phenomenon or external environment. As I stated yesterday, we are very difficult to even recognize who I am. So in order to recognize yourself, you have to compare yourself with someone else. So at a time when you are not able to recognize yourself, we tend to take a recognition of ourselves as depending upon what is being written on the television or a magazine, all the worldwide news. And what people think about you, what people do about you. So we always go after these allegations. It is very difficult to have an independently recognition for ourselves what are the requirements, what are our needs, and what are the objects that need to be abandoned, and what are the things that we need to take into account. So independently, we do not have the mental freedom to distinguish between what are the needs and what are our requirements and to be abolished. Today we speak about the freedom from conceptual mind or freedom of consciousness, freedom of thought. So when we speak about thought and consciousness, it is very difficult for the ordinary person to draw a line between these two. But those writers, they go with detail as a means of they explain the freedom of consciousness and freedom of thought as two different phenomena. but they do not understand what are the basis or the origins from where it arrives of this consciousness and thought. In this today's society, it is very difficult to find these sources. It is almost destroyed and extinct from this society. We have a saying in Chinese. We have a leader called the thought leader, the leader of thought. So a leader of thought is someone who can govern or direct someone through their way of thinking. First, I feel that it is a very stupid expression, but later I came to realize its meaning. Through that, we may reach a position where we will be able to reach to the nature of this mind. So the existence of afflicted emotions, then bad company, then lack of facilities for studies, and the fourth one being under the control of someone else. So these four obscurations in brief are the main obscurations due to which, even though all the sentient beings have the nature capability to become enlightened, but due to these four obscurations, uh, we are always downgraded and brought to difficult times. So similarly, we can take that example to the education system. The reason why uh, the studies are not so success, the education system doesn't become success in modern education institutions, may be due to the four reasons that I have cited. If a teacher can work on these four obscurations, then of course he will be a qualified master or teacher. A master who teaches the Buddhist studies or religious studies. For a religious master, it is very important. It's a must for them to have all this qualification. But for the general teacher teaching about the social science and so on in our schools, it is very difficult for them to have all the qualification as it is being presented. But they need to have their not may not be the similar one. A resembling qualification may be necessary for them. In today's the situation of the teacher, I may not need to explain. It is something that we all see. The most important, the fault is that everything that we see around us has been already converted into as a gain or loss related to business or economic. So there is not a single thing which is left out that is not related to a gain or profit of a business or economic. Administration, teacher, parent, and everyone face the same problem. And the common problem actually for all this administration teacher arises from the fact that everything has been converted into business. Everywhere we find only industries and company. So education institution is now converted into education industry. The best unrisked, the best unrisked is the education institution, whether be it a university or the high school. So most of the high school and university are in business now. The administration take money or fees from the students and only spend a part of that fees towards the real education purpose, and remaining one they use for their own benefit. Even in the mind of teacher, if I give 4 class a day, then I will get that much salary. If I give 5 class or 2 class, then I will get that much salary. or income. So most of the Western countries, we find the the work and the salary is being given based on the hours of your work. So this is also a kind of living for them. So in this way, the main core thing is totally different nowadays. The teacher thinks about how fast can the student can take into mind or understand what I'm teaching. It is similar to what we installed or store the data into a computer. How I can take out the information as it is being done or computers. So that's why without taking much classes, the students can get good result in examinations. So in this world, the education of students and their the level of improvement, their mental improvement is two different things which never go in together. And also, men's health industry, health issue has always become a kind of industry called health industry, and also the tourism is also become industry. So whatever the movement you made has been turned into an industry. Mahatma Gandhi has expressed in his self-governance in Swaraj that the doctor and the lawyers has been taken example and has written that how should they function in today's society, how they have become very bad in this society. The main ambition of a doctor or the physician is to reduce the illness, disease within the society. That seems to be the main ambition. Whoever is something related to a health worker, a physician, their main ambition should be to increase the health concern of uh, the society and decrease the number of patients. And if this is successful, then of course the health work becomes a successful one. But now it has been turned into a business. All the doctors and hospitals, they feel that without a patient, they do not have any business. Therefore, due to the degradation of the environment and due to the impact of the accidents and so on, the patients are increasing, therefore they have a better business. So their main ambition and the goal is to increase the number of patients. As the number of patients increase, their business also grows. So actually that is something like the goddess herself have become demon. They have such a motivation or thinking that the number of the patient when it increase, it is better for the income. But there is no one in this world who is revolting against these factors, this fact. Also the facilities for the hygiene, it seems that if someone is ultra rich or a rich person, then they have better access to modern health amenities. But for the poor people, they will tend to die if they have any disease, as they cannot afford the modern medical facilities. Similarly, in terms of the lawyer and the court in our society, if there is a case or accusations within our society, so then they have their business. If there is not a single case in our society, then all the lawyers and the advocates will go jobless and starve. And we have a saying that once you met a lawyer or a doctor, then you can never be separated from them. You have to meet them again and again in your life. A doctor uh, cure one of your diseases, and they tend to bear cause of another disease within you, which make you go to the doctor again. If you take one medicine, there's always another side effect due to which you have to go again to the same doctor. So this process will continue. Similarly, if you go to the court, even though if you win your case, but then you have to you have to again go to the court. But if you lose your case, then they will say that you have to fight for it. So ultimately, your visit to the court will increase and continue without an end, and the profit or the income for the lawyers will keep on coming. So therefore, actually, we say that the modern governance, we always say that it's for the welfare of society, but in reality, it is the opposite. So today's modern teacher have this intention of making a profit for themselves, while the traditional master or the teacher thinks about the benefit of the students without thinking about their own interests. With the wisdom distinguish between the right and the wrong. So due to these two different mental states, and also due to these two different ambitions and goal, it is totally different, which is the main factor that distinguish the traditional and modern teacher. I think I will. This is a summary for the distinction between traditional and modern teacher. Then about for the traditional student, and what are the qualities are needed for a traditional or modern student. Aryadeva has stated in the 400 verses the three qualities that the student should not be biased and should be attentive and should be eager to study. This is very common, and everybody knows these citations. All these three qualities are all related to mental qualities. They are not related to our physical or verbal qualities. So, in order to become a good uh, student, it is very important to have unbiased mind. So, this is the first and the foremost important quality. If one falls on one side and if one is biased, so even before entering the education system, they have in their mind a lot of ignorant thoughts which will disturb the quality of the education. While doing investigating uh, the nature of the object of study, before even studying the investigation, if you have a confirm or a certain thought in your mind about that particular subject, then your investigation will not be profound. When we speak about unbiased, we speak about the honest that doesn't fall on either sides. If one falls on either sides in terms of a scientific study or a physical uh, biological student, in his mind, if he have a feeling that the nature or the body should be in this way, if he have a certain ignorant thought about this, then at the actual class when the teacher teaches about the nature of the body, and if it is a pre-concept, if the student have a pre-concept about the certain uh, biological factor, then when the teacher imparts that study, the the instinct to understand the reality decrease with having the preconcept. For Dharma student, whether one understand a philosophical study or not, if you have a certain belief, a wrong view with respect to certain features of the Dhamma teaching, then due to that wrong views or ignorant thought when the teacher or master teach about any particular text, it is very difficult to uh, receive a clear teaching from your master due to your preconcept of that particular subject. When we speak about unbiased, if I explain it from another point, when we speak about the three folds of a pot, it is something related, something similar to unclean pot. If you pour anything into a pot which is not clean, which is dirty, then due to, even though the object may be very pure or clean, but due to the effect of the dirty pot, it won't be clean. So due to that faulty pot, you will not be able to draw a distinction between what is right and what is wrong. And the second quality is about having the attention or having the wisdom to intelligence to distinguish between right and wrong. If someone do not have the capacity of intelligence, then it is very difficult for them to study. Of course, it is. I'm not saying that they have the capacity, even though the intelligence is very low, but due to the lack of intelligence capacity, they won't be able to study uh, a subject with all the qualities. If someone who has faith in a religion, so to increase the awareness or the intelligence due to their own interest in certain religion, there may be measures to increase it. Or if someone is a non-believer, there are many other measures to increase their intelligent capacities. So this is the second quality. If someone is without the intelligence power to distinguish between the right and wrong, if you think from the three folds of a pot, then it is a pot which is whole, which has a hole. So if you leaky pot, if you put anything into a leaky pot, it will never remain inside and fall out. So this is the second quality. The third one is eager to study. Then the third one, if we speak from the pot, it is a pot which is put upside down. A pot which is upside down, if you cannot pour anything into it. Similarly, if you do not have the eagerness or the interest in your study, then of course you won't be able to learn anything. Due to your eagerness and interest in studies, even though your intelligence may not be so strong, due to the strong eagerness or interest, due to that, there is a good chances of you being able to study well. Your lack of intelligence capacity can be also compensated by your eager to study. There are ways to make it if you do not have intelligence. So, because due to the presence of strong interest in the subject can increase your mental capacities or the intelligence. In traditional system, when we think about the students, how we should sustain the students, there are few processes. The first is the importance of how to make the students unbiased, and second, how to make them intelligent, and third, how we can draw them to a line of attention or interest to that topic, and that all these measures can be taken in combination with both parents and teacher. If the parents or teacher can make the students possess these qualities, then the students will be a qualified traditional student. And if we look at the intelligent part from another side, due to the capacity to investigate whether something is right or not can be also described as intelligent or not. There is a way to explain that. And intelligence can be also explained as a kind of a power or capacity to investigate a certain thing. So therefore, in Tibetan philosophical studies, in the order of imparting the education, so first the collective topics which we touched this morning about the key to unlock the logical reasoning is one of the main factor. So once you study the collective topics, so after that, due to the mode of debate, reasonings, and so on, can lead you directly to your related subject due to your capacity of or the potential of debate. Of course, when it comes to a study, we also think about the uh, the nature of the reason of nature and also the reason of action and so on. All these applications are also very similar and can go along with the modern techniques. And from the four reasons, the best thing is the last one, which speaks about the correct way of approach. So if you do not have the fourth means of approach, then even though you may have the first three, but it may not be complete. Therefore, it is very important to study the Pramana text or the Buddhist study on epistemology, which is the main factor of making the student more attentive and intelligent. If one study the text of Pramana and Buddhist due to the power of the phenomena and other uh, reasons, they will be able to understand any other phenomena, whether it is semi-obscure or a super hidden phenomenon. So, due to application of one's intelligence or reason, we will be able to gain understanding about this phenomenon. If we are able to achieve that level, then the students, while undergoing the study of these subjects, there are a lot of benefits. One of the benefit is that they will never go with just listening without being contemplating or investigating. If the teacher speaks about a certain thing, or that they will not just follow their teacher's words, so they will always try to make sure that they understood and feel that whatever they heard is correct. If it's something they do not feel right, then they will investigate further by asking questions. In Buddhist studies, there is one risk involved. The teacher teach and the student study and debate. They know a lot of things that they can say verbally, but a lot of things they do not understand mentally. If they do not understand the meaning mentally, and even though they can say it from their mouth during the debate, it is a huge gap, and this may lead to not being a proper practice when it comes to implementation, and it will be a waste, even though they can say it, but they do not understand the meaning. They just heard it from someone, and they can copy it or imitate it. The new entrant monks normally, when they study the collective topics for the first 3 years, they always debate about the vase as impermanent and the reverberation of the vase as permanent. So even though it is very similar to the isolates of the vase and the vase itself, the isolates of the vase as a permanent phenomena and the vase itself as a impermanent phenomena. So in order to distinguish the isolates of a vase as a permanent phenomena, we need to have understanding about what that phenomena is. My teacher during the great winter debate on pramana, one of his teachers, who, one of the teachers of my tutor, he used to say that after studying the Pramana for 5 years under the temple of Radha Monastery, then I understood that the vase itself is a impermanent phenomenon, by the isolates of a vase is a permanent phenomenon. So this distinguish, it took me 5 years to understand the difference. So similarly, for uh, many Buddhist students, there are a lot of such lacking in understanding. When we study the path and the grounds of bodhisattvas and the practitioners, most of these were something similar to counting the things that we buy in a shop or malls, similar to the beggars counting the treasure, the golds of the rich people. So when the beggars count the treasures of the rich people, they can count it, but they will never get even, maybe they cannot even explain it, also their categorizations and also their barter. Similarly, even the parrots can also imitate the recitation of Mani Mantra. So all of this happens without having any mental understanding, which is a great fault and mistake. So such kind of fault or mistake, how should we eliminate it? From one side, due to valid reason, and from another side, the investigation through the valid reason should be prolonged and continued until we have the correct understanding of that phenomenon. We should not be satisfied with just a small investigation. When we study in the monastery, the great learning centers, the classes come after one another, year after year, similar to universities, and also the classes goes just completing their uh, respective courses, and there is a big risk that we will not be able to understood or put into practice that what we have studied in those great texts. Therefore, the attention or the investigative mind is very important, and especially an investigative mind that is very prolonged and that can sustain a long investigation until we could find the fact is very important. So therefore, for the traditional student, one of the qualities that need to be present is to be able to free from the three faults with respect to a pot, and also from the positive side, having the three qualities such as attention and so on. For the modern students, if we have a glance on modern students, of course we do not have such distinctions. And if a student is able to gather more information, that too, and whether in a swift manner and remember it, and there are very few that this is whether they will able to understood it or not. The modern exam pattern is always cannot make any distinguish whether the student understood or not. The only distinguish they can draw is how much is memorized. So the pattern and also the model of exams and how one should conduct the exams is also based on not investigating how much the intelligence is being increased. It is only focusing about how much the portion of the course is being memorized, and they can recite the same. Therefore, due to that reason, it is very nowadays all the students go after what is being said and take into account as it is without further investigating or understanding as it should be. Especially in some of the monastic institutions and the schools, I think that we should not take these modern qualities because these are not good kind of the combinations, and especially in a monastic institution like this, our approach to the quality that providing education should be different from the modern institutions. When we speak about the great learning centers of Buddhist philosophical studies, they are a center for the preservation of Buddhist teaching. And in a place of preservation the Buddhist teaching, we always speak about the practice of three trainings and also studying about the three pitakas or three baskets. And Abhidharma Vasubandhu has stated that the only means to the preserve the teaching is by uh, understanding, having gaining realization, and imparting the two teachings, the scriptural and the realizations. We normally speak about the sword with two uh, sword with both sharpness from the both side. So there is a risk of having, if we do not implement it in the right way, then there is a great danger of our institutions becoming a sword which may hit ourselves. So when we arrange the order of the course and syllabus and the curriculum of our students, we have to really contemplate and make it a proper in such a way that it will be a course and it will bring or lead the students to the study of philosophical studies later. In terms of the philosophical ideologies, I feel I feel that there are many people who says that the great morning monastic institutions like this should also have modern schools. But there are many other people also who are against such kind of schools. But at today's time, everybody agrees that we need to have such modern schools within a monastic community and campus. In Tibet, most of the monasteries where there are more than 200 monks, they always uh, came a kind of a school. Then once they graduate from that school, then there is another institution, a debate institutions. Then once they complete that debate institution, then there is a separate place for meditation. So without having these three institutions, a monastic uh, institution is not complete. So these are great, wonderful ideas. Similarly, in our modern monastic institutions, it is very important to have a school which is being recognized globally and nationally. And also, we have the philosophical debate section. And with that, if we also have a meditation center, which is we may do not need to have a separate term for meditation center, but as we normally say that whatever we study and we contemplate is being converted or should be practiced as a meditation. So what wherever you study your text or the philosophical study, that same place should be a center for meditation. So even though we may not be able to practice and meditate as the great yogi Milarepa does, but there are possibilities that we can do, such as practicing oneself at the same time giving teaching to your students. When we speak about the practice, or we are not speaking just about the recitation of mantra or staying for retreat. Of course, they may be a part. Whatever you study or you heard, it should be put into the practice to subdue your mind. The intelligence or the wisdom that arises from contemplation and listening to teaching should be able to increase the intelligence capacity of your mind and also make you grow, become further, bring you further into the higher levels of Bodhisattva grounds and so on. Therefore, the great monastic institutions, the main goal should be able to make the students study philosophical studies. But for that purpose, when we give the young monks in modern education uh, schools, there are uh, some subjects that we have to give, that need to be give exam as qualified to a certain uh, to qualify to the central government. We need to have certain subjects or examinations, but that should not be the main priorities. The main priority should be uh, that when the students, we should be able to make a distinction between someone who has not been to school and someone who has been to school when they enter the philosophical debate sections later after completing the schools. Then the one who went to school should be superior in terms of their understanding the philosophical meaning or the debate or their fierceness of their logic reasonings in terms of the modern education. Then they can combine these both two. So if such qualities can be actualized, then of course we fulfill the ambition of setting up such institutions. Therefore, while arranging the syllabus and curriculum of the schools is very important, we always need to do a lot of research and review with respect to the subjects that we taught in school. And whatever the curriculum that we fixed should be uh, something related to our main ambition, ultimate goal. If a student who study in the school for so many years and once he enter the philosophical section, if he is not able to generate a right kind of motivation to study philosophical studies, then it is a great loss. And this kind of institutions, the pre-institutions, become a kind of hindrance to study the philosophical studies. Therefore, most of the audience here are monks and who are very good in the logic studies. Of course, so therefore, when you fix the curriculum of the school, you have to think about how you should frame it. For example, from studying the collected topics from the psychological mind and the secondary minds, and also the reason and logic, even at that moment when we speak about the very basic way of debate, the sound as being permanent due to it being a product, then without having any understood about what is impermanence and what is a product, then it will be similar to as being taught something to a parrot or any bird that can imitate. So therefore, when we study the simple basic logic, such as the sound is impermanent due to its being a product, so that should be also implemented to oneself. That a product is always by nature impermanent. So by every single moment, they change their nature, and that kind of impermanence quality should be able to take on one's own nature, that we the death is approaching and ourselves from the moment we took rebirth in this world, the our from the very second moment it's changing and bringing us closer to the death. So every piece of study, even the simplest one, if we put it to the use of one's own experience and relate to one's own mental capacity and study, then that will be very beneficial and also very important. And if you can do that, and we will be able to realize our goal, our ultimate goal. So in these 2 days, you have arranged 4 sessions. In these 4 sessions, and all the topics that you want me to speak, I have spoken in brief. Of course, it may not be so extensive, and I also came hurriedly, so I am not be able to prepare myself much for this topic. I'm also unable to prepare myself and not in a capacity to say everything as you expected. But there is a saying that those one who are intelligent, we only need to give them a hint or a small explanations. And with that hint, due to your potential of your intelligence, you can understood it further. Whatever I said, if it is something unethical or not something that can be criticized later, then please forget it and drop it. If it is something beneficial, then of course, due to you also with the investigation by your mind, then of course it may be of some help. Thank you. We have a Q&A session. I'm requesting everyone to come forward.
Respect to Samdar Rinpoche. I have one question related to students. I have my own experience. Since it has been around 5 years since I joined the school, with uh, the students of the class 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and students in the Chura, a debate um, institute, and I've been seeing a lot of monk students being disrobed or living this monastic life, and some of them or many of are discouraged because they are not good in the studies, starting from the um, collective topics, and and I want the Samdon Rinpoche to uh, encourage them how to understand correctly the dialectics and so on. To make someone to understand, one must study. There is no other way. Without studying, there is nothing one can gain or understand unless he has a very strong imprint from past life. The former Kadambas Lamas, they used there's a saying, there is nothing one could realize if they put effort to think on this matter again and again. And the main reason of the not understanding properly is uh, two kind of laziness. One is discouraging oneself, and and the bad elements, and and uh, one should avoid the sense of discouragement, and one cannot understand anything um, merely through reading once and listening to someone else for once. Initially, when we study the Tibetan alphabet Kakakanga, we face a lot of difficulties. It it takes uh, plenty of time to uh, know or learn Tibetan alphabet and how to write it. Once we get used to it, and we feel it's not difficult anymore. We feel it as a very easy, um, and when we are when we write down on a paper, uh, it we can easily write it without thinking properly, because it's all about the familiarizations, the dialectics, or the logical studies. If you think it is something that one can easily learn, then it is sort of arrogant. It is very difficult, and it takes plenty of time to understand the dialectics and the um, logical studies, philosophy. For such time between teacher and student, uh, there should be a close relationship between student and teacher, and the teacher uh, himself has to uh, uh, encourage students while teaching the students the dialectics and so on. If teacher struggle to impress the students or help him to improve his knowledge, it wouldn't take much time for teacher to let his student understand the ideas of logical studies and so on. And once the student understand the basic logical studies, he will get used to it, and it will be no more difficult for him. Those who uh, studied in Tibet, they were lacking in the field of food or clothing. There are very less facilities, and there is a festival called Debungshu. It comes once a year. So there is no other source of distraction apart from this festival. But most of the all the students over there in the monastic university, or they are they were always fit and fine in terms of their physical body, because they have a deep interest in their studies. And I wrote in one article, uh, as we debate in a debate courtyard, and it is also um, it it involves exercise of our physical body and mental fitness, and also our verbal. So it's exercise for entire our physical bodies, and also our verbal. Um, um, those who answer without thinking long, it also includes the mental exercise. In English, there's a physical, vocal, and intellectual or emotional exercise. So these all exercise, different exercise, are included in the debate courtyard when monks actually engage themselves into debate. And also, it also helped the monks to sustain uh, his physical body and fitness. And the physical bodies that we find these days in our community, these are partial. When it goes for physical exercise, it may not include or um, it may not become a verbal exercise or emotional exercise. So it is very important to have potency or potential for the monks to have how to think logically and the knowledge of logical reasonings and so on. So once the monks have this capability, there will be less chance for one to lose his courage or being discouraged. From another side, when we study uh, through logical reasonings to the Buddhist text, it also requires a strong merits, and one has to um, attend class, debate class every time, and attend the uh, gatherings and pujas, and while performing or saying prayers at the gathering, not only saying something from one's mouth, but also thinking about the meaning of the words that he is saying. So, by doing such, one can also purify his of afflicted thoughts. So it may feel difficult to do so, but it will help oneself uh, to purify one's negativity and sense of afflicted emotions and so on. And living uh, s- right on the time when you feel it is difficult, it is too early to do so. So, teachers and parents uh, and the teachers and the parents should advise explicitly to the students that there is no point of turning away from studying logical reasonings or dialectics and doing something else. So it is really important to encourage the students to study the logical reasonings and also dialectics. So, and there are a lot of monks who have uh, done a lot or achieved a lot because of studying um, so hard the dialectics and the logical studies. First, um, I, I, I want to greet all of you, including Samdong Rinpoche. And the question that I want to ask you is the word education, the Tibetan word Yuandin and Lobjong, these are said to be different in terms of its own connotation. So people say not merely from Lobjong, one has the actually the Lobjong education is roughly translated into English as education, very simply translated into English. But Tibetan has two different words which has the same connotations of English word English. So the question is if someone can gain happiness merely from lobjong. So it is quite hard to find a suitable words in English because uh, in English we use this words education most of the time for both of those Tibetan different terms. Those who believe that merely um, realizing or having a knowledge of lobjong, one cannot uh, gain happiness. Since I don't know about it quite well, I think I cannot answer it. If you ask this question, it is quite hard to answer it right away. So it is something we have to um, make division while we are saying lobjong as in general. So so if the education is something related to Tibetan Buddhist or Buddhist studies, if someone say one can gain happiness merely by studying Buddhist studies, it is possible. If the subject that the one is studying has nothing to do with the Buddhist studies or ideology, or such as studies of economics or technology, because of the mental disposition or motivations, uh, things that can be used in a negative and positive merit, such as if someone study in economics only, if you ask he can gain happiness, if he can um, accomplish his own goals, it cannot it cannot fulfill. Uh, so so it depends on the subject that the person is studying, and not only the subject, the way he study also matters. Even though the subject itself is good, if actually I've already talked about how to study yesterday. If one study merely in order to know the reality, and the subject that the person is studying and the way he studies, um, uh, with the basis of morality, the um, the subject of the Tripitaka, of three baskets of knowledge as stated in the sutras, one can fulfill the uh, ambitions or goals of everyone, including oneself. If one studies only without the um, um, without having devotions or good motivation, it won't be that much helpful. It is quite uh, evident. Samdo Rinpoche, and to all the people who are um, here in this gathering, my question is, uh, if there is a student who is strong in physical body and he doesn't listen to teachers, and and he's naughty, and what is the best method or way to make him a better person or better student? How a teacher can make him a better person or better student if the student is naughty and tall and strong? Um, a bad student who doesn't obey his teachers, a bad mannered student, if he doesn't listen to his teachers, the first of all, it is important to understand what is the reason, what is the cause of the matter or fact that he's not listening and why he's not paying attention to the studies. You have to find out the cause. In Buddhist um, practice, whatever we do, unless we see the problem or the mistake, the first in Buddhist practice, it is quite usual whenever we see the problems or mistakes, we try to find out its cause. This is how we try to um, discard the problem. If you were to abandon the truth of suffering, unless you uh, investigate the cause and origin of this truth of suffering, you won't be able to abandon it. So you have to find out uh, that the truth of origin is actually the cause of the truth of um, suffering. The ignorance is something that does not uh, that is beyond the reality, and it can be abandoned by uh, actualizing a thought which is opposite to this particular um, ignorant mind. So similarly here, uh, uh, to the bad manner students, so you have to find out whether his um, bad manner is something a result of his uh, karma, uh, or it is something that is caused by his environments or his residential teachers. You have to find out. Um, you have to uh, try to convince him with logical reasonings, and uh, sh- how to apply antidote to this um, uh, mistake or problem, this fault. then one can actually help him um, uh, improve his manner. Mahatma Gandhi, when he founded ashram society in South Africa, within the black community, there are a lot of bad manner students. Some students did not even listen to Mahatma Gandhi, and someone who rack other students who are less stronger. And Gandhi one time um, had to slap one student, and he then think again whether uh, the slapping the student is right or wrong. Then he realized it's wrong approach, and he generate sense of remorse, and to change his this behavior, he stayed for retreat because of uh, staying in retreat for a couple days. Uh, uh, it also helped the student to change his behavior. What it shows is the way he looked after his students. When Mahatma Gandhi tried to find out how he looked at the student, it also helped the student to find out how his teacher looked after him, the way his teacher looked at him. In every society these days, the modern way of living, modern style is there. So uh, it is very difficult to change the behavior of the students. There's an English term, reward punishment. So how someone can train a donkey when someone shows a radar to the monkey hanging already on top of a stick, there's a chance to make donkey walk forward. Otherwise, the only option is to beat him with stick. In modern education institute, those who does good, there is always a reward for good students, good manner students, student who does good in studies. There's always a reward. Reward could be of money or any other uh, presents. And someone who does bad or bad in studies, there's a system of punishing that students. Punishing students and awarding or rewarding the student if someone tries to help improve the quality of students with this approach of giving award or rewarding or punishing the students, it is what what result it brings by punishing the student. It creates fear in the students. uh, Rewarding the students, it creates more desire to the students, and the desire and the fear, these both are defilements. It's afflicted mental factor. It it does not help the students' basic human quality to improve. Therefore, when a student does not listen to the teacher when they were advised, it doesn't help uh, improve his behavior merely by punishing or rewarding the students. So it is important to understand what is the cause of his failure, what is the cause of his fault, what is the fault of his uh, being a bad manner student. So we are going to have the question and answer session later. So we are going to have a tea break now. Please all